Today we're going to take a look at the new Map Plus control for AVEVA PI Vision. The Map Plus control is an interactive map that uses OpenStreetMap's data and allows you to visualize your PI and AF data on an interactive map. You can move the map around, you can display electoral process data on top of it, and today we are going to take a look at how it works and how we can create a map like this. So before we get started, we need to set up our asset accordingly. I have prepared a couple of assets. The important thing is to have the longitude as well as the attitude properties and traits set in AF accordingly, so the map knows the actual position of your assets. Once we've done that, we get started with creating the map control. We select the map up here and then just pick any of our values. We pull the map onto the display, make it a little bigger, and this is where we get started. Initially, we will see there's only a single point here for our asset that we've added. You're free to select other assets as well. Let's pick this one and pull the attribute onto the display. And now we have our second asset. You can see that the map automatically zooms out so it fits all assets onto the map. I can add as many assets manually as I want, but I could also use the asset search criteria, meaning it will automatically use the assets that I've defined in my search criteria. I'm going to enable this one, and now we can see that all my other assets have been loaded as well. I can modify the search criteria. For example, I want every descendant, and then I'm going to pick the asset type, hit the refresh button, and it's going to display my asset on the map. That said, there's a couple of configurations I can do with the map control. First up, we can change the actual map provider. The Map Plus control provides a couple of different options. I could go ahead with the default OpenStreetMap, which is the map we're seeing right now. There are a couple of other providers that are free to use, like Carto. They provide different styles, like light maps, dark maps, even ArcGIS Map for more topological type of map, street maps, National Geographic, Wikimedia, a couple of things you can use. But for now, we're just going to go ahead with the default OpenStreetMap. So how does the data management work? Initially, as you see, I've pulled in the single attribute, which is called value 1. This is once I hover over one of my cities, it's going to display that particular value. I can add multiple attributes as well. The symbol has automatically picked up all the value controls and all the value attributes, so I don't need to use this on the left. I can just hit this button and it's going to add that value as well. Now I have value 1 as well as value 2 for my assets on the map. So the couple of things that I can configure first is the series type. I could go ahead with just the default scatter plot like this, where each individual asset is displayed as a dot. But I could also use an interactive pie chart, to show the value 1 and value 2 in relation to one another. But for now, we're just going to go ahead with the scatter plot. As on the default, they're grouped by asset, meaning once I hover over this value, for example, value 1 and value 2 going to show together in Paris, for example. Now, if I disable that, every single value is an individual dot, so I can enable the stack, and now you can see I have 2 dots here for attribute value 1 and 2. But for now, we are going to go ahead with the grouped set. I can modify the display icon type, so like this one. Next, I can decide about the color and the size. So basically, as we have now two attributes for each asset, I need to decide, okay, where do I want to take the color from? For example, now this is set to value 1. Value 1 is blue and value 2 is green. Now if I set the grouped color to value 2, it's obviously going to take the green color. Why is this important? Specifically for multi-stating. So for example, I want to enable multi-state for my charts. I'm going to pick some colors that represent certain states. And now, because every asset has two values, I need to decide, okay, which color do I would like to use. In this case, we're taking color of value 1, which is the multi-state we have just enabled. Next thing is the size, where to take that one. So I'm just going to adjust the size of color 2, for example, of value 2 rather, and it's going to increase the size as well. If I switch to value 2, it's going to take the size of value 2. This is also important if you're using relative sizing, meaning every dot is as big as the value in itself. So for example, if I switch that to relative, you can see some are bigger than others because their values are obviously higher. The range is picked automatically, but I can also use database or custom range for that. For now, we're just going to go ahead with the fixed value. So next up, we can select data labels. So default, it's always going to show the asset name. What I can do is I can show the actual values on top of it, and as well as the attribute name. For now, we're just going to use that without the value and the name. Next up, we have clustering. Initially, this is disabled, so every single dot is shown as an individual item on the map. But what if, for example, I have a lot of dots that are on a similar location, especially if I'm zoomed out very far? I would like to have the ability to automatically cluster those. Like you see here, those in Europe are pretty hard to read right now. We want to automatically cluster them together. So I'm just going to enable clustering, and now they will start showing as a single dot. The value, I can decide on which value I would like to use, like the aggregation of the values. So the default is mean, so it's going to take the average of like Berlin, London and Paris for this particular dot. And I can also adjust the threshold of when the dots are going to start clustering. So if I reduce or increase, let me just increase this, you can see they start getting clustered more and more. I'm just going to reduce that again. And this is also fully aware of the current zoom level. So as soon as I start zooming in, you can see the dots start to separate because they're now individually visible. I can change the symbol for clustered dots so that all clustered have different symbols, or I could just choose inherit, and it's going to take the symbol of the base data source. Next up, we have interactivity. There are a couple of things I can do once I click one of those assets. For example, I can bring up the ad hoc chart, so I'm just going to click that one, and it's going to bring the actual data. I could do set asset context, meaning every time I click on an asset, it's going to change the asset context on my current display. And last but not least, we have open hyperlink. If I have any attributes of type URL, I could use those to, for example, use the map as a kind of navigation menu, allowing the users to click one of those assets and it's going to take them to like an asset specific display, for example. Another feature the map has is the ability to draw lines. For example, if you want to draw power lines, pipelines that actively show data, you can use the lines feature here. This is fairly straightforward. You just add a line and then select a start and an end asset. For that, I'm just going to disable the clustering. And now we will draw a line between two cities, for example. go. Initially we see it says null because we haven't defined a value yet. What we can do is decide which attribute to use. In this case we're going to use value 1, and then I would like to define the calculation, because both cities have an attribute of the same value, and now I want to decide, okay, the line, which value should it show? The difference would show obviously the difference between Rio de Janeiro and Cape Town. I could do the mean, the average. I could do like the total calculation, as well as just use the value from start and end. For now we're going with the mean, and I can also enable the color value. Now it's going to also use the multi-state ranges that we have defined. So now this line is shown in the orange color, because obviously that is the range of the multi-state for value 1. I can customize the line to increase the size, change opacity, or the line style, and for that I can add as many lines as I want. Finally, there's also the ability to upload KML GPX files. These are static map data files that allow you to draw things like shapes, rectangles, lines, circles, whatever that are static on your map. Alright, so this was a very brief overview of the new Map Plus control. Map Plus control is available within the Vision Library Plus collection. If you wanted to learn more about it, just visit our website. Thanks a lot for watching.